Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tinnitist TV. Today's interviews are kind of special for me because I'm talking to two members of one of my favorite bands, Marah. I can still remember the first time I heard Marah. It was the year 2000, and I was sitting on my couch listening to CDs and writing reviews. I put their second album, Kids in Philly, into my Discman. I pushed play, and within minutes I was completely and totally hooked. Their sound was big and boisterous and beautiful and joyful and jubilant. It combined some of the finest qualities of early Bruce Springsteen, the Faces, Van Morrison, Bob Dylan. But ultimately, their songs didn't really sound like anybody else. The lyrics are richly detailed street poetry. The songwriting itself and the arrangements broke all the rules. The production was just full of life and energy and vitality and momentum. More than 20 years later, Kids in Philly is still one of my favorite albums, and Marah are still one of my favorite bands. In the years since, I've reviewed all their releases. I've seen them play as many times as I could. I've even collected and traded bootleg recordings of their shows with other fans. The one thing that I never got to do, though, was interview the Pennsylvania group's founders, chief architects, and sole permanent members. That would be the singer-guitarist brothers Dave and Serge Bielanko. And since Marah basically stopped being a full-time working band shortly after Serge backed away from music in 2008 to raise a family and focus on writing, I never really expected to talk to them. But recently the stars aligned. Marah announced their first show in 2 years, a Christmas gig in their former hometown of Philadelphia. And thanks to the internet, I was able to track down both Serge and Dave via Zoom to talk about the upcoming show, the band's legacy, and even a possible future for Marah. Fittingly, Dave called from the darkness of the recording studio. Serge was hanging out at home recovering from a root canal, but both of them were nice enough to put up with all my fanboy questions. Rather than edit the interviews together or run them back to back, I decided just to post them separately. So here's one of them. Enjoy. Well, thanks for doing this, first of all. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for doing it for me, for us.
Well, my pleasure. So this will be the first time you've been on stage in how long, this Christmas show?
I mean, almost 2 years to the day.
Okay.
Yeah. So the last thing that we did anything was a Christmas show. And they're usually one of 2 weekends leading up to the holidays. So I don't remember the exact date of the last one, but it's damn close to 2 years to the day.
Okay. Is that the longest layoff you think that you've had? Or was there longer when you were, sort of more fully gone?
I mean, yeah, I think for me, I've had longer periods of time that I've walked away from it. It's the kind of thing where I think the periods where I walk away from it allow me to have the periods where I come back to it at this point.
Yeah, I can understand that. It makes it all the sweeter, I would think.
It does. I was thinking about the other day. I've played with this band with my brother. It's the only thing I've ever done with music, but it's hovering somewhere around 25 years. Which I turn 50 in a couple of weeks, the day after the show, and so that's half my fucking life.
Yeah.
That's a cool thing to be able to say that I've been in a band for half my life.
And a good band.
Well, thanks. So yeah, but at this point, I think in order to do anything like that, to say, oh, I've been in there has to be a more to it than that. It's not like I've been gigging every night for the past 25 years, unless you're an NRBQ or something. There are some people that can do that, but I certainly would be dead if I had done it that way.
Yeah, well, fair enough. Dave was saying that he was surprised at how quickly it's been coming together, that there wasn't much rust to scrape off, that it was just like getting back on the bike. Has it been the same experience for you?
Yeah, it has been. Yeah, I was surprised too. Honestly, I was nervous, as anyone would be, I guess, after 2 years. I guess, not to sound too overtly humble about it or whatever, but I'm not like a great musician. I'm not a great guitar player or anything. So it's not like I have to relearn a lot of stuff. I can just plug in, and a lot of it for me is just kind of almost rhythmic muscle memory. I play the guitar more like I play, a set of bongos. So it was not as bad as I thought. And I think because it's me and Dave, it's always made it a little easier for me to sort of step back into the thing simultaneously with him by my side. That helps a lot. I've often wondered what it would have been like to be in a band where it wasn't my brother. And of course, I'll never know that. And I probably never could have known that because I don't think I ever would have done it. Mm. That's not the question you asked, but that's a roundabout way of coming back.
So, during the times when you had stepped away from it, did you ever go see them play when you were just in the audience and not on stage?
Yeah, once or twice, I think. I did, not in every version. I think I more saw like Dave playing more sort of acoustic type stuff. Yeah, not a lot. I don't think I saw the full version of Marah with a different guitar player and stuff. It wasn't so much that I couldn't bear to watch that, or I had moved far away. We had moved. I was married to someone at the time, and we lived in Utah. So that's a place where Marah doesn't play. So they didn't come through town very often. So yeah, not too often did I get to see what was happening.
Because that doesn't happen very often that you would get the chance to have that experience. And I wonder if it would be bittersweet, or whether you'd be able to separate enough to just enjoy them the way everybody else enjoys them.
Yeah. That is a great question. And I do have recollection of when it did happen, again, like even if it was more on the acoustic side of things, it was certainly moving to me. It was emotionally moving to me to see, him up there and singing songs even that I had written. Yeah, it was, I remember it being something that I really liked, and I remember it being stirring, and, I guess it probably makes you think, oh, like even now, I mean, honestly, I have a hard time watching other live music.
Why?
Because I know it from up there. I know what it's like to be up there. And so it's hard once you're up there to turn it around. It's hard for me anyway.
Yeah, no, you wrote a great essay a while ago. It was about taking your wife to see, I can't remember, somebody she really loved.
Bright Eyes.
Bright Eyes. There you go.
I'm wearing the hoodie today. Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was a great, discussion about the experience of being there and seeing it from the other side, I thought.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, and that was the truth of the matter. That I didn't really know their music until I met her, and they've become one of the best things I've discovered in a long time. And that sounds strange to say when it's, it's almost like, am I trying to get points with my wife? But it's not. I really fell in love with the band, and yeah, no, it doesn't. But it's genuine. It's coming from a real place, and so we, the way that it all ended out was we got into the front row. It was kind of like they opened the gates, and Arlie, my wife, wanted to, wait outside through a fucking tornado. There was a tornado warning and all this stuff. So we ultimately got into the front row, and it was just a really surreal experience for me. We watched the opening act was Lucy Dacus, is her name? You know her?
Yep.
Am I saying her name right? I don't know.
Yep. I don't know if it's Dacus or Dacus, one or the other, but
Dacus,
yeah,
maybe.
Yeah.
And and she was incredible, living in Philly. So I was like really curious about her. She lives in Philadelphia, and incredible. But again, like I'm watching this, and I'm like, that used to be me. Like we would open for bands in places like this where the crowd is largely there to see someone else, and so I guess in a sense I have an insight, that other people don't. But then there's, by the time that Bright Eyes came on, it was really magical and incredible. But also, I wanted to fucking hop up on the stage, like I wanted to be up there. I'm like, this band is so good, and I could see myself over here, playing this part, and I could, grab a fucking maraca and be over here, and it would work. I know it would work.
On behalf of your wife, I'd like to thank you for not jumping up on stage.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that would have been on. That would have gone viral. Me getting my ass kicked with Bright Eyes.
So have you guys started arguing about the set list for the show yet?
Yeah, but I wouldn't say it's arguing. I mean, honestly, I think I went into this maybe with a different mindset than I have in the past, where I feel like Dave is the number one, he's the general of the army. And it always has been that way in a sense. I've contributed a lot, and I don't think it's the same without me. And I look back and all of my input has really mattered. But we, probably if we started to play a lot of shows, we would argue about the set list here and there again. But for the most part, we never have. There have been times when I'm sort of insistent that we try to do certain things. But no, he's been really open to any suggestions that I've had. And he's been really open to the idea. I think he started out with this preconceived notion that we were gonna do this show, but we're gonna limit it. We're not gonna do it like as big and bombastic as in the past, and we're gonna maybe make it like an opening act, and then we'll come out and we'll do like an hour and a half. And I mean, quite honestly, Darryl, I don't think that's going to happen. The set, Dave keeps adding stuff to the set list, which is great, I think, because I think we've been surprising ourselves. The way we rehearse now is me and him. There's a couple local guys that are incredible musicians, Gus and Huck Trish. They're a couple brothers that hang around the studio where Dave is usually at most days. So I think that the set list is it's long and it's varied. And I do I think one thing that he likes to try and do is let's really pull out some rare shit and do that, and figure that out, like, because that's what has to happen. There's not as much muscle memory with something like that. Like let's reinvent this, and I did have to be like, well, let's not forget that I think basically we're getting like one day of full band rehearsal before this thing, and all these guys are incredible musicians, with the exception of me. No. but like seriously, they're really good, but it's still a lot to say, okay, it's been 2 years. Let's all get in a circle here and make it as magic as we possibly can. There's a little bit of pressure in that. So, back to your original question. Yeah, I think the set list has morphed a little bit in that Dave has realized, okay, we can still play an incredible show. I said, even if we play the exact same set list that we played at the last Christmas show, that was 2 years ago, Yeah. So I don't think anyone's going to be like, Jesus, it was song for song. I don't think so, but.
No, I mean, he was even trying to sell me on we're trying to keep it tight and this and that. And I was going, dude, that's never going to happen. You're going to get up there and, it'll be a love fest with, I mean, it's not like you're going to have a bunch of people at this gig who are going, I've never heard of this band. I'll just stop in and check them out. I mean, this is preaching to the choir stuff, Right.
Exactly, man. So yeah, it's a situation where, again, we call it an extravaganza or a holiday, but it's really just a celebration,
Sure.
It's a pretty beautiful thing that, after all this time with this band, that we do have this collection of fans, and some have come and gone. We've had people die. You in a band long enough, it's strange. There are faces that I know I've forgotten that were such a part of our lives and were at so many shows, that for whatever reason have gone on to other things. But there is this core collection of people at any given moment in the history of the band that love it, and that really means something to them. And I get messages and emails here and there from people about it, and it is honestly the reason that I want to keep it alive in some capacity, you know. The idea of going out on tour and stuff like that, it just doesn't appeal to me as much anymore, you know. But the idea of being able to get together with these people and make even one night a year or whatever into something special for all of us, you know, the band included, I think it dawned on me that that's an opportunity in this day and age that a lot of people probably wish they had, you know, to be able to say, hey, let's throw a party and some people are going to come and it's going to feel good, you know. So
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's a real testimony to the music and to you guys and just the whole thing that it's been, I mean, geez, what, 13 years since you know, left, and things have been up and down and on and off again. But that fan base, that core of people who, you know, have loved your music all the way through and have never stopped and are thrilled when you show up every now and again. I mean, to have that exist is in of itself something that is, I mean, just a great legacy to have, you know?
it is. Yeah, it is. I can't argue with you. It's like, it's just, you know, we worked really, really hard, and probably sacrificed a lot of things in along the way, you know, to be able to say, okay, our band, you know, will not be defeated. Our band, you know, our band will not be extinguished.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, so to look back on it now and to sort of still even to still fucking be alive, you know, and be like, oh, we're all still here. We've never actually lost a soldier along the road, and this group of guys that we play with now it's been that core band for quite a long time now, you know. So it's that even adds another dimension to it, because for a long time, you know, the roster would change
Right.
more frequently than we ever wanted. But so you look back on it now and it's like, yeah, I can't believe that happened, you know, and I can't believe that we were able to do that, and I can't believe that this many people um, cared, and that the music really moved them that much, you know. And don't I'm not mistaken by the fact that it's not, you know, it's not the masses, you know, it's not millions of people I'm talking about, but I've come to understand that, you know, honestly, a small room with 30 people in it can be one of the most life-changing nights of your, you know, of your existence. Um,
Fair enough.
it sounds almost cliche in a way, but it is true. And anybody that's ever, you know, been in a band or gone to see a band, you know what I mean? Like, you've experienced that in some capacity. And so we've been lucky to have a lot of nights like that, you know. So we traded off a lot of things in life probably, but we have this collection of nights, you know, of magic nights. And I think even as I get older, you know, I'm hesitant to let that go. You know, there are times when I'm like, oh, you know, I'm a busy guy. You know, I've got
Sure.
3 kids, 2 step kids. I work a bunch of different jobs. You know, it's like music isn't the way that I can support myself or even physically keep up with it, the demands of it anymore. But we worked really hard to get to this place. You know, so do you want to? How do you walk away from that? I don't know.
No, I think you're handling it the right way. Talking about looking back, how do the albums sit with you now? If you listen to them, or you know, I'm guessing at this time maybe you talked about wanting to, you know, pull out some rare songs, so you got to go back and listen to something again.
Hmm.
Have you been reassessing, and does everything hold up? Is it better than you remember it? How does it sit? You know?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really listen to the records that much.
Mhm.
I don't think any artist really does. Even to play the songs. I mean, sometimes Dave might have to put it on to revisit it to actually figure out the arrangement that we were playing on the record. But with our band, you know, and that's all I can really speak of. But the recordings themselves would be left at the dock when we pulled out to play them live, you
Right.
know. And we never went back to port. It was like they would and so sometimes I'll hear certain songs like the Catfisherman or something, and the recorded version is so interesting and different, and I remember it comes up flooding back what we were trying to do and all of it. But but it's changed, live it has become something much different than what it sounds like on the record. And I think that's probably true of a lot of our music, for better or worse. The records themselves, do they stand the test of time to me? I do think they do. Especially, everybody has their favorites, so I've got mine, but they all seem to, in some way, shape, or form, still sound good to me. I do think that like there's production trade-off stuff. I don't know how to describe it, that we did at times where things could have probably sounded, I don't want to say better, but more like full, maybe. But we were so bound and determined to do things on our own, and in some strange way, I think that became the sound of our records, to me. And I like that, that there's like, I wonder, I'll listen to certain things. I wonder what this would have sounded like if we didn't record it in a fucking garage, but we wouldn't have made it if we didn't do it in a garage, you see. So you can't ever listen to your own stuff and go too deep into those questions. But
and let's be honest though, those albums you recorded in the fucking garage sound great. I mean, to this day, I really do not understand how you were able to make those first two albums on that, broken 8-track thing where you had only 7 tracks to work with, and there's so much stuff on there.
Yeah,
it's kind of it reminds me of the Beatles making Sgt. Pepper on a 4-track.
Well, that's high praise, but yeah, I mean, obviously that even crossed our minds because there aren't that many stories. I mean, there's the tales, and it goes back into rock and roll history, but like of Little Richard recording shit in hotel rooms and somebody following him around, setting up, and it was so primitive. But it came from this place where like, this is the only way that's going to happen. This is the only way that it's going to happen. That we want to do it ourselves. It wasn't like we were on some kind of DIY, or die train. This is the mid to late 90s. I don't know what was happening in the music business then. I don't remember anything, but I
Nirvana.
yeah. I mean, there was cool shit happening, but like as far as like our band, we knew that any shot that we had, we were just going to have to do it ourselves. It was just this intrinsically understood, reality that, and we always were fine with that, and later on we tried to do other things. And I think, to some degrees we succeeded. Certainly we have a collection of stories that, go into recording studios and stuff, but yeah, I think that the band was born up out of something sort of primitive in all capacities, in all ways. And yeah, recording in a garage. I mean, I don't know. I try to explain to my kids sometimes, some of them are starting to get interested in music and listening to, and I say, I'll try and tell them, but it's like old man stories, but like, you don't understand, no one, like none of these artists that you're watching on YouTube or whatever, like have ever, but it's weird because in a lot of ways, this whole, like, the technology has allowed people to make music on their own, where you don't have to go to a recording studio or something. So in some ways we maybe were akin, more akin with that kind of thing than I even realized at times. But yeah, looking back on it, it was our life, so I think the actual making of the records, Daryl, we didn't have a pot to piss in, man, like and that's just, again, sounds cliche, like, okay, but that's the truth. I remember having like a couple dollars between like 5 guys, but we liked that. I think we liked being lean and hungry. I think we liked feeling like it was us against the world. You know, our band was never really a part of any kind of a big scene. You know, we had many other friends that were in bands and all, but we were never part of more than, you know, a couple nights with one band and then it's over and we're gone. You know, it always felt like it was just us in a van against the world in a sense. And I think that drove us, you know, honestly, to continue to play and to continue to try and exist. You know, that whole attitude again that you can't get rid of us.
Well, fair enough. I just love the I was talking with Dave about this, and just the joy and the energy, and especially on Kids in Philly. For me, that's sort of the milestone album. You know, it just sounds like you are putting not only everything you have, you know, in your hearts and souls into the music. It literally sounds like you're just throwing everything at the wall there in terms of, you know, the instrumentation, and every song is, you know, how much can we do here and how can we make this unique and different, and again, you know, for a bunch of guys standing in a garage, it's quite an astounding achievement, you know.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I
So
love that record. You know, I mean, you know, looking back on it again, it was an incredible time in my life. You know, to be honest with you, I think we wanted that record to sound like the city. You know, we made it in the city. We wanted it to sound like we made it without fucking walls. You know, I mean, there were only thin walls around this attic of this garage where we were. You know, and honestly, if you took a sledgehammer, you could just knock them down, and suddenly you'd be on this stage, and the city surrounds you. That's really the idea. You know, at Kids in Philly was that's who we were. You know, and to try and capture that essence of a place where there, and it could be any city, but for us it was Philly, but just capture the spirit of life, you know, and the ups and downs, and there's pretty much everything on there is mentioned at some point or another, you know, from being born to dying, especially if you combine the first two records. I think we
mhm.
covered a lot of ground, as you usually do in your first couple, you know. But I look back at Kids of Philly, and yeah, it was, and the sort of, uh, I guess the grandiose sort of what you're alluding to, a lot of instruments or a lot of sound, you know, um, that was very organic, you know. That was never like, I don't know, like we loved like Phil Spector and that kind of thing, you know. We were absolute, you know, in allegiance to that sort of music. But there was something also about like Motown, and then a lot of the rock and roll that we liked, where it wasn't just, a lot of the great songs with, even like with Springsteen, is probably my favorite of all time. Um, you know, a lot of what makes even the recordings magic is, you know, you hear him like yelling off mic, you know, something that would normally, if, you know, a producer or an engineer would be like, okay, we gotta, you know, get that out of here. But that's what makes it real. That's what makes it seem like for a second that you're standing there, you know, watching him play in front of you. It takes
Well,
it.
yeah, I mean, because you've got those elements in there, though. That's the thing. The records are these living, breathing things. You know, you can picture you guys. You know, it doesn't sound like a studio construct. It never did.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, again, like I don't. Who knows what makes a record good? You know, nobody knows. Who knows what makes a record magic? Who knows what makes it, like you say, living and breathing? That's a hard thing. You know, you and I could probably sit here all day and start and you know, start throwing records at each other and be like, how about that? And we'd be like, yeah, fuck yeah, you know.
Yeah.
There's so much of that. You know, there's so much recorded music that's just out of this world wonderful, you know. And I don't know why. You know, I guess if I did, yeah, I'd be rich. I don't know why. What makes it that way, you know? And we didn't know then either. We just were like, this would make, you know. And I've heard it said before by band, but like this is the record that I would love to hear. You know, this is a band that I would love to see, and that would then lead to like, okay, we're going to go out and play these songs live, you know, in Texas and Oregon and ultimately in, you know, England and Spain and Germany. And so the people that have heard this record, you know, for the most part, they're not going to have any idea who the fuck are these guys, you know, like they're going to go see us maybe if they come, but they're not going to have any idea what to expect. You know, this was pre YouTube and stuff like that. And that, you know, old school kind of mystique where like, okay, so who are you going to be then on stage? You know, if they hear this big record and, you know, obviously can't take all those instruments, but what's going to happen then? And so then that was another very real challenge, but also something that we were absolutely 100,000,000% committed to, was like, you know, anybody that bought the record and came here to see us in fucking Denmark or wherever, you know, has no idea what we even look like. I want them to walk out of there forgetting that they even own the record. They would be like, that's the greatest thing I ever saw, you know? And there's only 7 people here, you know? I had a half of a club to myself, you know? I'm standing there and watching this band. It felt awkward, but I'll leave, you know? And of course, that's a tall order, but that was what wins the day.
Yeah, well, and I can attest. I was not in Denmark, but I was at some of those shows, and yeah, it was, you know, one time at South by Southwest, my wife and I were there, and she was off doing something else, and it had been a long day, and it was one of those. You guys were playing, I think, a late afternoon show at Yard Dog, I think, and she was going, I'm really tired, and you know, should we just go back to the hotel maybe? And I said, well, we're here, you know, why don't we? You know, we'll go in, we'll watch a bit, and if you're still tired, we'll take off, blah, blah, blah. And you guys started playing, and within like 5 minutes, she was just, you know, rejuvenated. It was like, you know, no, I'm not tired anymore. We're not going anywhere. We're staying right here, you know.
It's like an espresso.
Basically, yeah, that was the power of you guys, I think. And I remember another show I saw you where, I think it was another daytime show there, and you know, might have been, I think it was around really early, like noon or 1 o'clock in a Mexican restaurant somewhere. And everybody's, you know, everybody's looking kind of like us, you know, it's morning, you're kind of, you know, okay, well, yeah. And then, you know, you guys come on, and you started with the Jam in the City.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Full blazing, guns blazing. And it was just like the whole, again, 50 people, maybe whatever, but everyone just did a collective whoosh. Yeah, you know, and then it was full on, and that was the thing, you know.
Yeah,
I remember walking all the way back downtown after that show, just, you know, going fuck, having to, you know, just wanting to tell people, you know.
Yeah. Good. So, that makes me feel good. Yeah, that was it. That was the, you know, again, that was what won the day. It was just you wanted to do exactly what you're saying that we did to you. You know, like even if one person, you know, that we didn't even know about, you know, but you had to imagine there was one, and often. I was talking to my wife last night, you know, I said, you know, because I'm somebody, man, I have like a lot of anxiety and depression problems and stuff. And honestly, the thing that often gets me through is not even like playing the music. It's just thinking about, you know, like what you're telling me, you know, like certain nights. And I've thought about that one. I remember that, you know, the Jam thing, but and then we were always like, something that really worked for me and helped me in my life was always like just coming out after we played and talking to people. You know, it was like, I said to my wife, I was like, I don't understand how I get the mystique of like just walking off stage and disappearing. There's something to that. And plus musicians are fucked up people anyway. So I don't know where you're going off into the night somewhere. But for me, it was always like, all right, you know, I want somebody to buy me a beer, and then B, I want to talk to them and just meet them and know who came, you know. And I'm sure that many people around the world can attest to the fact that I talked to that guy from that band, Marah, and he's fucking chatty, you know. He talks a lot because it really was, for me, maybe the most important thing was to understand and know who likes this music, you know, who came out tonight, like not just, oh, I'm so-and-so and I live across town in this neighborhood, but like, what do you do? You know, like, what else are you into? You know, do you have any pets? Just, I don't know. The layers are so, you could just go on forever, right? But somehow each of those conversations and each of those people, it meant something to me, and it still does, you know, and I can't obviously remember all of them, but again, it comes back to this, collective of fans that we have now. And, I don't even really consider them fans. I mean, it's just people that we united over something, we united about, and me and Dave, we just happened to be in the band, and happened to have written the songs that maybe brought us together in the first place. But then it becomes something more, and you share things. I've watched so many of these people become parents. There's going to be people at the show that met at a Christmas show of ours a couple years ago. They just got married, and the young lady's pregnant. I mean, I'm not taking all the credit, but it's awesome, right? I mean, that's a cool thing. And so there are days, dude, when I don't even feel like getting out of fucking bed because my whole system just kind of shuts down into this, storm of rain. But the fact that I lived that life and have that to pull from is just really powerful, And so I don't spend a lot of time watching old Marah stuff. I don't even have any Marah shit in my house, and I got stuff all over the walls, I feel like I want my kids to discover it on their own someday. I don't want to force feed it to them, but I hope they do while I'm still alive, and I hope they get curious about it so that I can tell them, these stories of like, man, yeah, we got to do certain things that are really cool, but I got to talk to fucking people all over the world or half the world anyway. And a lot of them I still talk to, I may never see them again, but through the magic of social media, we like each other's shit. And it's almost like, I see you, man. I remember this night where and that is a beautiful thing that I think that, again, anybody that sets out on the road to play music and be a musician, I hope that they have that in mind, that connection with your audience. And, there's so much more to it than just getting rich and famous. And, it just is. And from this perspective now, as I'm getting older, it's like, all right, I'm never going to have what we had, but I'm never going to lose what we had either,
Are you telling me though that you seriously haven't shown your kids that picture and gone, see Bruce Springsteen? See Dad? See Bruce Springsteen? See Dad?
No, I have done that. Come on. I'm not stupid. No, my kids are pretty cool about it. They like their own music now, just like I think any kids. My daughter's 12, my son's 10. They were schooled pretty early on in some good stuff. They grew up listening to Sinatra and Billie Holiday. That's the kind of, I like jazz. That's what I listen to now. But they've also grew up listening to the Pogues, and to Springsteen. So I hope someday that they come back full circle to me and be like, Dad, sit down and tell us what it was like, But but at the same time, I think your role in your family is much different than when you're chasing your dreams and all. You have these other shoes to fill, so I can't ever try and cross the wire, so to speak.
Right. Dave was saying that he kind of dreams of maybe there being a way forward with the band, and obviously you're not going to all sit and write a new album of new originals and go on the road. That's but he was saying maybe he was hoping there's a way to do it by going back and rescuing some of those orphan songs that got left behind on albums, or maybe compiling some of the greatest of your live moments and all that. How do things like that sit with you? Is that something that you would want to take part in, or are you happier to just sort of leave it all where it was?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how to answer that. Honestly, that's a good question. It's very good. I mean, I don't regret anything,
Right.
that Marah, playing in Marah is one of the best things that ever happened to me, with the exception of, my wife and my kids. So I don't know. I love to write, my days now are like, that's my thing, that's what gets me off and really makes me happy, is just to write. What can happen with Marah is totally up in the air. You know, I do say this, you know, like, I don't want it to fade away. You know, if I'm alive, I would, because I still continue to get something very deep and meaningful to me out of coming into contact with these people, you know, and even playing these songs sometimes, you know, it feels really good. It feels really cool. And it's kind of magical, and I can't really describe it. So I can't imagine, you know, a time when I don't want it to be alive somehow, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I've thought about that myself, and I don't know. No one can, you know, in 2021, you know, what is supposed to happen, you know, with a band that was formed in 1990s Philadelphia, you know. Back then, I don't think anybody would be like, yeah, we'll still be talking about them. You know, that's our fault, because, you know, I say, we just refused to go away. But I don't know what the legacy, you know, for lack of a better term, you know, of our band is supposed to be. You know, I think there were many times when it really came close to probably ending because of stupid shit, you know,
Sure.
which just like anything, I think, like a marriage, even relationship with your kids, you know, you go through in the most meaningful things in your life. They, you know, not to try and sound poetic or whatever, but there has to be a lot of wind and rain and snow, you know, a lot of hard road, um, in order to be able to sit here, you know, on a Saturday morning and talk to you about like this whole gigantic thing and what happens to it now. You know, you have to live through so much in order to be able to get to this place to say, okay, what's next? And that in and of itself is pretty special, I think, you know. So
Yeah.
whatever happens, I don't know. Um, Honestly, I think me and Dave would be happy if we got together and play a show every now and then, and continue to find ways to, like, new designs to make fucking t-shirts, just right. So, you know, just to keep floating something out there. You know, I don't know. The Some of the best times of my life are playing these songs, you know, next to my brother. So even though sometimes I think that we clash and life gets in the way, and many other people have participated in our lives, some who still remain, many others who we've just basically had to, uh, you know, run from in order to survive. And we've been through a lot, you know. But I would always, I think, to answer your question, I know this is a fucking long answer. Jesus, you probably,
No,
that's like a
that's great.
cardboard cutout of you sitting there. You went to get coffee, but um,
The John Bonham drum solo
yeah,
of
I
the
think
portion.
that I just think the simple, basic answer that you're probably looking for is that, you know, I'm always open to Marah stuff. You know, I'm always open to the ideas of things, and who knows? You know, who knows if people out in the world are interested. Um, yeah, I almost feel like I don't have the fucking right to say no.
Fair enough, right? Doesn't belong to you anymore in a way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your other writing. I mean, you obviously pour a lot of effort into it. You know, the things you send out are fantastically written and long and involved, and really are it almost all the things that I read by you. It's a journey. You know, you start here and the thing takes you somewhere, and maybe you end up back where you started, and maybe you don't.
Hmm.
What's your process like? I mean, are you sitting up at 3 in the morning pecking away at stuff, or what's going on?
No, 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 3 a.m. I am a morning person. I like to get up in the morning. You know, this thing came about. I've always, for the last, you know, 15 years or so, been writing in some capacity. You know, I've always, I was a reader all my life. I love reading. I love discovering new things to read. I love books. I love buying books. I love holding books. I love seeing books. And I've known a few writers. I've been lucky enough to meet some writers along the way, incredible people. It just always struck me as something that I wanted to try. And when I first tried it, I just really liked it. It made me feel good, you know. I think it makes me feel good about myself because it's something, even with the band, it wasn't something I could do myself, if that makes any sense, you know, like it was this shared collective, me and my brother and whoever else was along. And that's what it was meant to be, because that's what even the word band means by definition. But you always had to share all of that. And it took obviously a lot of um, unified effort and work to make it float. But the writing is just me, you know, it's just me. And there's nothing else that is very, there's no equipment, there's no, you know, there's no nothing. It's just me and my thoughts and my head. And in some sense, I've always felt like that's all that my life is just been, is me in some kind of a dream, you know. And so I can't even describe to you what it means to me to be able to write, you know. So last year I started this new thing. It's called Thunder Pie, and I put it out through Substack, which is kind of a newsletter. Um, you know, you can do whatever you want with it, but it makes it really easy. The platform is cool, and when I sort of first heard about that idea, and I had gotten to this point where I'm really like self-conscious person. You know, I'm not somebody that's sure that whatever I'm going to do is going to succeed. In fact, I'm the opposite. So it took a lot for me to really be like, I'm going to put a feeler out and see if anybody would be interested. You know, for a long time I just had a blog. I wrote on that. Some people read it. You know, I think it mainly got traffic from people that were maybe fans of our band. You know, a built-in sort of little crowd. Of 8 or 9 people, you know, but it never mattered to me. You know, I'm used to making art that doesn't really hit a lot of people, but maybe can hit a few hard. So that's all that really matters. It's just the ability to do it, and you know, and hopefully the ability to have at least a few people check it out. You know.
Are you working on anything, longer term, like a novel or anything like that?
No, not really. I mean, no, I like the immediacy. That's one of the things I didn't like about like being in a band is making records. It just takes so long, you know. Just I honestly like I like the immediacy that's offered in today's world where you can do something. So you know, my writing day, I made it, and it's really helped me. You know, it's helped me this past year to be able to have this one thing where I dedicate a few hours every week to being like, that's what I'm writing, you know, and my wife is cool about it. And I lock the door and I could just sit down at my little ass desk and write, you know, drink coffee and write straight through. Um, and then on Friday morning, it goes out, gets sent automatically, you know? So and at 9 a.m. every Friday morning, it hits my own email inbox. You know, that's how it works. So if you're a subscriber, you get it in your email every Friday morning at 9 a.m. And you know, at 9 a.m. every Friday morning, I made it Friday because you know you can make it any day you want, but that's like the best day of the week, right? So if you kick off your Friday with and it makes me really happy, you know, to get my own fucking thing in the email. Like I did it, you know, I got through another week and I did it. And it might not be the best thing I ever wrote, but I can guarantee you I really wrote my ass off and tried. And it just makes me happy to picture that, you know, a few hundred other people are getting that same email at that same exact moment. And that keeps me going, you know, that many people give a shit, and not all of them are even going to read it, but that's enough for me. You know, I don't have any strange designs on, you know, book deals or whatever. The thing is, Daryl, I really fucking love writing, and
Can tell.
yeah, and this is just a way like I found that I could do it and actually have some readers. But I wouldn't even want to gamble and chance anything else, you know, like because I don't know what the book industry is like, but I'm sure it sucks, to be on the other side of it. I'm sure it's hard and
Well, I don't think everything is recoupable in the book industry, at least, so
yeah,
there's that.
yeah. Have you written any books?
No,
No?
no. I spent 30 years cranking out, essentially blurbs, record reviews, and some longer form interviews and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I've written millions of words, but all in. It's like McDonald's, a
Yeah.
billion served, all in
Yeah.
little chunks.
Do you ever try to write any longer form stuff?
I've written some short stories and things over the years, but the honest thing is, I for 30 years had a job where I was writing a few thousand words a day, on deadline, and
right.
then it becomes a busman's holiday after that.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
you've written 10 or 15,000 words during the week, on Saturday, it's kind of hard to work up the initiative to go, okay.
No, I totally get that.
Yeah.
Again, I think that's in a way like why. I mean, that's almost why I think with music, like I had to leave it at times, because if it's just this constant thing in your life, and then you lean on it in order to survive,
Mm-hmm.
it morphs into something completely different. It really does, and that pure, absolute, intense adoration and love that you had for it before you stepped into the arena, so to speak, can dissipate and just make you even bitter, toward the thing that you were so in love with it to begin with. So I don't want that to happen to me. It has happened at times with music, and I guess that's why I had, so at this point, it's like, I like just kind of sneaking back around. I'm so happy that it feels good, so you don't want to bite off more than you could chew. And the same with the writing, man. It's like, all right, I'm able to write in my house, send this thing out, a few hundred people get it. Some of them read it, makes me feel good. That's enough. I'm not going to fuck with that.
Yeah, fair enough. Last question, then I'll let you get on with your day. What's your fascination with the Civil War about?
Well, I just find it, ever since I was pretty young, I just find it to be this endless source of the most amazing stories, incidents, people. In a lot of ways, it represents all of the struggles that occur in humanity, especially in American humanity, United States humanity, United States history. It's hard to describe, and I guess with anything that you really truly love, it's hard to describe why. I don't know exactly why. It's not one thing or another. I'm just really drawn to it. I like to go to like old graveyards. I like to stand in places where things happened, and not necessarily like, a fight or a battle, but I like to stand where I'm pretty sure, soldiers camped once upon a time, and took a shit in the woods over there, It's like, I don't know. I'm fascinated by that, I really am. And it draws me in. And again, it's like a very, it just gives me inner peace to think about it. Strangely enough, I know. And war is hell, as Sherman said, but like, I like books. So there's a lot of books written about the American Civil War, and a lot of them are old. I like old stuff. It just suits me, It suits me. There's a lot of fucking idiots that are into the American Civil War. A lot of people that are just the opposite of the kind of person I am. But just like anything else, you can pursue something that you love, basically on a solo trip, which is what I do. My wife is real cool about it. She and I both have our people that were in it too. That helps when you have this, ancestors. She's got a shit ton of them that were everywhere. And I've got a couple that were in it. Philadelphia guys that I only discovered a couple years ago. So it really ramped up all of it for me at that point. Because again, man, I like feeling connected to something in ways I can't describe. And I immediately felt this connection to these there were two brothers, that went, my grandmother's grandfather and his brother is who it was. And they enlisted in Philly and camped out along the Schuylkill River. I passed this place all my life, had no idea that their fucking bodies are buried in this graveyard, like where I used to wait in line for concert tickets. It's so strange and weird to me that all this stuff comes flooding back. And these guys were at Gettysburg. Like, seriously? Like, I collect books about Gettysburg. Like, what the fuck? That connection to me is one of the most amazing things that ever happened. I mean, people roll their eyes at that, but it's like, I can go there. My wife is so sick of fucking Gettysburg, man, but I could just go there and just stand out there I'm going there the week after our show, for my 50th birthday. I don't want to go anywhere else. I don't want to go out to eat. I want to go to Gettysburg and stay in this little motel that we stay in. And I just want to go out and stand in the middle of the battlefield. It's going to be cold as hell. And I'm going to be, in my place. That's all I want. So again, another long ass answer for you, my man, but I'm sorry.
That is perfect, sir. Listen, I think that's all the interrogation I had for you, unless there's something else that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get into.
No, I appreciate it. I really appreciate you doing it. I appreciate your interest, and I appreciate the cool questions.
Oh man, my pleasure. You tell me you still have the Telecaster, right? Your Telecaster.
Man, I wish I could tell you that. No,
You don't?
here's what that guitar. Let's see what year it was. I mean, it's been gone for quite a while. That was a guitar that I really, really loved. The last time I saw it was when we put it on a plane in Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris. And I never saw it again. So it's probably somewhere in fucking Paris. Is my guess. My dad is French. He's born, and my real father was born and raised in France. So in some strange way, I feel like, oh man, the best guitar that I ever owned is now, in my ancestral, part of my ancestral homeland. But yeah, that was a really sad time. I'm not really like a guitar junkie or anything, but I really did love that. I've been lucky to have a few incredible guitars in my life. I don't know that much about them. People will come up to me and know more about them than I do. Now I've got like this Les Paul Jr. that I really like, that my brother gave me a couple years ago as a birthday gift. They're all really special mostly because they're compadres along the fucking road, along the journey, and so you hold them in your arms. It's like I don't know, like they were your fellow travelers. And so to lose one like that, it hurt, in more ways than just it sounded awesome, but it was like, fuck, man, whoever has it doesn't understand that that thing really, we were friends, we did a lot together, and suddenly just lose it like that sucks. But it was a lesson in the value of tangible shit to me, all of it is really
it's just stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's just stuff.